Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a Life Celebration by Franklin Brief Symposium for the month of June. You guys, we are halfway through the year, and today the weather is a nice 95 degrees down here, so another thing for us to just be wonderful and happy about this hot weather in Austin. Today our topic is the invisible backpack of grief, understanding the weight we carry and how to unpack it. And Dr. Cunningham is going to come on and give us the explanation of all of that because she gave us that long title. So she'll be on to give us that explanation. How are you doing, Dr. Cunningham?
I am well. How are you, Marie?
I am doing well, doing well.
Is
Listen,
my is my long title already giving you grief?
yeah, it's already giving me grief. Already.
Lord Jesus. Lord
Listen,
Jesus.
Dr. Cunningham, so before I go off, I know you're going to ask everybody what they did, from last month to this month. So let me go ahead and get mine out so
Okay.
that I don't have to come back on if you don't mind.
I go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. So, all you know, last month I told everybody it was my birthday. So
Yes.
let me tell y'all what happened with my birthday. So that last month was my birthday, and so I had to transfer all my medical records from to Medicare. It was a chore. It was a chore, but I finally got it done. So guess what? Now I am having the luxury of enjoying senior benefits. And there's some benefits out there that I didn't even know about. I was like, what? Okay, I should have been a senior already. So senior benefits are wonderful. I just want y'all to know.
Wow. So you had grief while
I
transitioning the
did.
paperwork, but now that you're there, you're
Now that
good.
I'm there, I'm good.
Wow, you are Medicare old. That is
I'm
something.
Medicare old,
I
but I'm
love it.
okay. But I'm okay with it.
And you look good.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, you take it away, Dr. Cunningham.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Well, greetings again, as she already stated. Welcome to our monthly grief symposium that is hosted by a life celebration by Franklin in Austin, Texas. And for those of you who do not know what that is, that's a funeral home. That is a funeral home, have been providing grief support over a decade at least. I know it's over a decade, probably 11 years by now, 11 or 12 years. And we are so happy to be able to provide this support, not only for the families that we serve there at the life celebration, but anybody in the area. So you are welcome to participate. And guess what? Next month is July, and we will be meeting in person, and the crowd goes wild. Yeah. Listen, I love coming to Austin. It's a point of my resting and getting away from home and just being able to rest and being with new people. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. Those of you in the Austin, Texas area, meet us in person in July. So if this is your first time being with us, either on Facebook or YouTube, would you put a 1 in the comment section so our digital production team, they can definitely recognize you and thank you and appreciate you for joining us. Put a 1 in the chat. If you've been with us before, I'm going to ask you to put what I asked my followers to put in the comments section. Could you put an FF? Jimmy, go on and be the first one to put it in the chat. FF. What does that mean? That means you are a frequent flyer. And we love our frequent flyers. So we welcome you. And I want to mention now, before we get into the other preliminaries and even into the handout that we're going to talk about today, is if you want to download the handout and follow along with me, you're welcome to do so. It has been uploaded in the description of the video. So on Facebook and in YouTube, you can go there now and kind of download it. And so you can have it for yourself, or you can wait till after the video, after we finish, and you can download the handout. Thank you, Jimmy, FF. So yes, wanted to mention that the handout is available that we're going to talk about today. So I want to do our check-in. This is what Marie was talking about. Those of you who have been here before, I don't see anybody on Facebook that put a 1 in the comment section. So that must mean you have been here before. So you already know what I'm getting ready to ask you. What have you done to take care? People ask, why do I ask that question? Because we must participate in our own healing. Can somebody put that in the comment section? We must participate in our own healing. That means you've got to be engaged, okay? That means you've got to do something. So that's why I'm asking, because if you don't take care of you, who will? If you don't take care of yourself, who will? So I always want to be a leader by example. What have I done to take care of myself since I saw y'all last month? Those of you who have been on this journey with me, you know that my health, I have been experiencing some health challenges. Over the years, I've been dealing with menopause, and it's better, although I'm still having the flashes. I've learned to manage them. Dealing with hot flashes and things like that, high blood pressure. I'm happy to report that my blood pressure has been balanced out since December of last year, so that is doing well. But I went to a new doctor, Marie. I can't wait to get to Medicare age so I can get those senior benefits. But I had a doctor. Listen, let me tell y'all, in the United States of America, I don't know why we call it United States, but because we're not, that just baffles me how we call it. It should be the divided states of America. But anywho, we're not talking about political stuff. Our healthcare, as well as it may be than other countries, it still has its own challenges. And one of the things that I have noticed, physicians, they have mandates that they have been given by the government that they are to only spend a certain amount of time with patients. You've got a good PCP if that PCP doesn't rush you during your session. Most oftentimes, we're going to get 15 minutes or less, unless it's your first visit with that doctor. Okay? So I have a whole list of things that I'm going into. I had a PCP who was very, very friendly. I see you, Hill Hubbard, Mary Hill Hubbard. You're on Facebook. This is your first time being here. Thank you so much for joining. We're so glad that you're here. So I've had some caring physicians in times past. I went through grief when I had to change. When I left corporate America and started working for myself, I didn't even think about I was going to lose my good insurance. Oh my God. I lose my good insurance, and now I have insurance that I'm paying good money for, but it's different. It's called marketplace insurance, and it is not the same. And so the first time that I went to a doctor under the marketplace insurance, I had a really, really kind guy. And he said he could tell I was in shock. He could tell I was in grief. He said, "You're just coming out of corporate America with insurance, right?" He said, "Welcome to the world over here." He said, "It's a shocker because it's different." And so I was used to a doctor that would listen to me and that would spend more than 15 minutes with me. So the doctor that I had under this marketplace, she was that. That's why I chose her. I chose her. And then all of a sudden she was shifted to a clinic. She was shifted to a clinic. And that's when I know that the care that she provided changed. And she started rushing us. And I just needed more time than that. So I shifted to another physician. And I had my first visit with him on the 17th of this month. And another friend of mine, a cousin who is an entrepreneur as well, and she has him as a doctor. She said, go to him. He believes in natural remedies. He's not going to automatically put you on prescribed medications. He's going to listen to you. And he did just that. But the first thing he told me, he said, "I've reviewed your records," because I'm in the same system, right? He said, "Why did you change doctors?" I said, "Well, I felt I wasn't being attended to by the other doctor. So I needed to move to another doctor who would listen to me. Are you going to listen to me?" And he said, "Yes, I'm going to listen to you." He said, "Are you going to listen to me?" And I said, "Yes, I'm going to listen to you." Y'all, the first thing he told me, he said, "I reviewed your chart and you know you're obese, right?" I paused just like that. I said, "I'm a new patient. How you going to start at telling me I'm obese?" He said, "You're obese for your body mass index, BMI." He's telling the truth. He really, really is. Although I may look like, I'm not overweight for my size, I am. And I can feel it. I can see it. I look like a little chipmunk. All of this. But I loved how he said, "You know you're obese, right? And you're borderline diabetic." I say, "Okay, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better," because what did I do, y'all? I was doing well, like some of us on our grief journey, and then stress comes along, and then stress caused me to start eating. Then my sugar levels went out of whack, all those kinds of things. So he told me, "You're going to come back in September." We had a long visit. He said, "You're going to come back in September, and I expect you to have lost weight, I expect some things to change. He sat down, he said, what are you going to do? I said, I got to do this. I got to do that. My point for telling you is that we all have to participate in our own healing. So I want to feel better. Guess what? I got to do the work. It's not going to melt off. I have to do the work, whatever that means for me, because my journey is for me. Your journey is for you. So that's my check-in, is that I have a new doctor and I'm going to do what he said. And I'm going to have some different results by September. Praise the Lord. So y'all pray for me. Y'all pray for me. Because, yeah, he's holding me accountable. All right. So I see you guys are putting some things in the chat already before we go to the handout. Let me see what you're saying, what you have done. Good afternoon, Karen. Glad to have you. Hello, Lois. Thank you for putting that in the chat. We must participate. Absolutely. Jimmy said you visited the Obama Presidential Center. Oh my God. How was that, Jimmy? Can you just put in the chat, how was that experience? I bet that was wonderful. I look forward to doing that as well. Barbara, hello, Barbara. Good to see you, my friend. So thanks, Jimmy, for putting that in the comment section. So let's move on to our handout. All right. So Marie already mentioned we are in June. The last day of June is going to be Tuesday. We are halfway through the year. So some of us may have experienced some tough times. Our loved ones died from January to now, or even prior to that. The first 6 months may not have been the best, but guess what? We have another 6 months to work towards and to work through. Okay. So I want you to set intentions. Matter of fact, right now, let's just, wherever you are, hopefully you're in a quiet space. Jimmy said it was spectacular, super spectacular. Hello, Cassandra. If you're in a quiet space where it's not any noise, I really want you to sit and just think about, set your intentions for the next 6 months. What is July through December going to look like for you? What is it that you're going to do differently? How are you going to take care of your mental health? What are you going to do about your physical health? What are you going to do about your spiritual health, your financial health? I really want you to sit down, set those intentions, write them out, and then follow those instructions. What does the word of God tell us? Write the vision, make it plain. For those that can see it, then you can run with it. All right. So our topic is the invisible backpack of grief. Marie said my topic was long. That's the topic right there. The other part is the subtopic. The invisible backpack of grief. The subtopic, to help us understand the topic, is understanding the weight we carry and learning how to unpack it. Somebody needs to put in the chat, unpack. Can you put that in the comment section? Unpack. Although we're going to be talking about grief, some of us need to unpack some other stuff. Okay, so it's not just solely about grief. We need to do some unpacking. Now, some of us need to do some physical unpacking. We're not going to go there, right? We're not going to talk about that. We talked about that. Was that last year when we went through, when I gave us this challenge of decluttering? Yes, it was. It was last year. Unpack. So we've got to unpack. So I want you to imagine some things. So if you have the handout, you can look and see this beautiful graphic that we have. If not, you can wait until after the video. But I don't know, maybe you can see it here. I can show you. Look at that woman. She's got a backpack. You can't see all of it because it's so small. But it's a backpack, and she has things. She has stones, and she has rocks in them. And those things are heavy, right? Those things are heavy. But on the stones, it's labeled grief, guilt, anger, shame, regret, and a whole lot of other stuff. The what ifs, betrayal, people pleasing. All of these things are in her backpack. The key thing about a backpack is that we can't see what's in there. Okay? I love traveling with a backpack. Anybody else like backpacks? Before, let's see, my armor bearer and her dear friend, who is my friend now, for a birthday gift a few years ago, they gifted me a trip to New York. And they didn't tell me about it until a Sunday night. And they said, we're leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, for me, back then, hey, sister, hey, Ro. For me back then, I was really a control freak, like some of y'all that are on here. Everything has to be your way. You like to be in control. And did you know that's a trauma response? Control is in the fight part of our brain. So I like to know what's happening. And they waited purposely to tell me. So they tell me about this trip, and then less than 8 hours or a little over 8 hours, we're going to be going on this trip. I hadn't packed. And they said, we're going to pack for you. I went further out of control because I'm like, what? Y'all don't know what I like? What? Y'all going to pack for me? And they did. And that trip taught me I was carrying a whole lot of unnecessary weight. I'm going to pause right there and allow you to think about that. How many of you are carrying unnecessary weight? Your stuff, and then you carry other people's stuff. So that trip taught me. I went to New York on a Monday morning early, came back the next day, but late that night, Tuesday night, and with nothing but a backpack. Now, for me, that's huge because I was the girl that would pack 5 pair of shoes, and I'm just going, down the road to Austin. I never knew, I didn't know if it was going to rain, so I take my rain boots. I didn't know, that's not me anymore. That's not me anymore. I don't carry all those things in my backpack. I love traveling by backpack now. Okay? Jimmy says, wow, the desire to be in control is a trauma response. Absolutely it is. The fight, flight, freeze, fawn is in the fight part of your brain. And when people strive and fight to be in control, it's understandable because most oftentimes it means that you've experienced some chaos in your life. What do I mean? Your childhood may have been traumatic and things were out of control. And as a kid, you couldn't put them in control. So as you grow up, again, you grew up chronologically in age, but at the age we're injured, we can stop growing emotionally, mentally. So you become stagnant. And as a child, you want to keep things in control and be safe. And if that didn't happen for you, when you go up to be an adult, you want to make sure, I'm not going to be out of control like that anymore. All right. So I want you to imagine this. Imagine a moment where everybody walks in a room and everybody's wearing a backpack. Everybody's wearing a backpack. Okay. And at a glance, when you look at them, it looks like everybody's doing fine. It appears, keyword is appears. Can somebody put appears in the chat? It appears that everybody's looking the same, that everybody's fine. Okay. You greet people, you have conversations, then you go to work, you do all these things, you attend church, you raise your children, life goes on, you care for your aging parents, you fulfill your responsibilities. But what if I told you in those backpacks that everybody is carrying, again, it's something in there that can actually impact our lives. Everybody's going to be carrying something different. Hey, Miss Cat. Everybody's going to be carrying something different. So the challenge is grief is often invisible, just like our backpack. It's invisible because it happens on the inside of us. Okay? Unlike a broken arm. I remember I broke my arm when I was on vacation in 2019 running in Italy. In Florence, Italy. We'll never forget it. Running and trying to cross the street before the traffic light changed, fell and broke my wrist. And I had a cast that I had to wear. That was visible. It told people that I was injured, that I broke something. Okay? Grief is not like that. Okay? It doesn't have this visible look to where, oh, you're grieving. And a lot of times it's invisible because we wear a mask, pretending that we're not hurting, pretending that this doesn't cause pain. So unlike a broken arm, again, in a cast or a surgical scar that can be seen, grief is carried internally. Can somebody put internally in the comment section? It's carried internally, and people will often say to you, you look so strong, without realizing that sometimes strength is just another word for survival. Strength is just another word for survival. And if you are that person, oftentimes you are that person in your family. Those of you who are on here live, hey, Lizzie, good to see you. You are that person that everybody goes to in your family. So the strongest looking person in the room may also be carrying the heaviest emotional weight. emotional weight. Okay, so today let's talk about this invisible backpack of grief, what I call an invisible backpack of grief. So every loss has the potential, listen to this, because grief is not just about death, and I'll mention that in further just in a moment. But every loss that we have, it has the potential to be an item placed in our backpack. It has the potential to be an item that's going to be placed in our backpack. Some of those items will last there or be in the backpack for a season. Others were never meant to stay for a long period of time. Okay. So we want to work to pull those things out of the backpack. Listen to this. Healing is not pretending that the backpack doesn't exist. Healing doesn't mean that. Healing is learning. Somebody needs to hear this. Healing is learning what to carry, what to release, and how to keep walking without collapsing under the weight. I said a mouthful. I'm going to repeat that. Healing is learning what to carry. Healing is learning what to release. And healing is learning how to keep walking without collapsing under the weight. Because in the beginning, you feel like collapsing. Okay? So I want you to think about your backpack. What's in it? What's in it? If you're on here, we know that grief is in it. So, but what else is in it besides grief? For those who are here for the first time, and for those who've been here before, as a reminder, we always want to identify what grief is. Terminology is going to be important. You got to understand the thing before you can apply information to change or heal from a thing. Okay, so you got to understand what grief is. And most people immediately think of death when they hear of the word grief. Okay, they immediately think of death. I'm glad this is helping you, Miss Cat. Hey, Tonya. Hey, love. So while death certainly creates profound loss, okay, while it does, it creates profound grief, death does, it's much broader than what we call bereavement. Somebody put bereavement in the chat. So we're talking about grief and bereavement. They are not the same, although we use them interchangeably in the world. Okay, if you're a part of the grief industry, if you're part of the funeral industry, you'll know that grief and bereavement and mourning are not the same. Bereavement is really the event. It's an event. What kind of event? A funeral, a memorial service. It's an event. Okay. And so when you have a job and you're working and someone died, you want to take off work. What do they give you? Bereavement days off. They don't give you grief days, because our society as a whole don't understand about grief. How do I know that they don't understand the impact of grief? Because they only give you a few days for bereavement leave. 3 to 5 days, maybe 7. Then they expect you to come back to work and to function the same way you did before your life changed when someone died. Somebody said, Tonya says, what's the difference? Grief happens on the inside of you. Okay? It's an internal on our handout. If you're following me, grief is a natural, emotional, physical, cognitive, spiritual, and relational response to any significant loss, not just death, any significant loss. In other words, whenever life changes in a way we did not choose or cannot control, grief follows. Oh, that was good to me. Whenever life changes in a way that we didn't choose, we can't control it, grief follows. Okay? So that's what grief is, Tonya. Bereavement is the event. It's the funeral. It's an event. Mourning is what happens on the outside of you. Mourning is how you cope. Mourning is how you cope. All right? So people grieve different things. Divorce, death, broken relationships, infertility, women who want to have children and can't, chronic illness, retirement. There are many people are in grief because of retirement, miscarriage, financial loss, job loss, betrayal, empty nesting. We have some parents who are going through grief because of empty nesting, moving away from your family, loss of your health. You're not functioning the way that you used to, loss of health. okay, loss of identity, and even the loss of dreams they held for the future. Okay, sometimes people grieve who they used to be before something traumatic changed them. Something traumatic changed them. So I had a mentee again. She went through grief because she went through something traumatic to where her whole body shut down. She had some type of disease that kept her in a coma for over 6 months. And she came out of the coma with a limp. Still alive. We thank God for her life. But she's different. So she's having to grieve. So we go through grief because of all of these things. Okay? All of these things. So Queen Elizabeth says grief is the price that we pay for love. It is. Grief is that price. Okay? Attaching ourselves to people, places, and things and dreams. So if you've lived long enough, trust me, your backpack's got some stuff in it. It's got some stuff in it. Okay? So what happens when you never unpack? This is what we need to pay attention to. What happens if you never unpack your grief, your pain, whatever it is that you're going through? Those things that you hold close to the chest that you never tell anybody. So imagine again packing for a weekend trip or even a lengthy trip and you never unpack when you return home. Now some of y'all do that. I've heard some people say the stuff stays in the suitcase by 2 weeks later. So I want you to imagine in my case study, you pack for a weekend trip, you come home and you never unpack. Okay? Then you take another trip and simply add more clothes to the same suitcase. And you do that month after month. Tonya says, I have that problem. Thank you for your honesty. Month after month. You just packing stuff in, but you're not taking things out. You got dirty clothes in there. Okay? You got clothes that are dirty you can't wear. They're smelling. Month after month, year after year. Eventually, that suitcase is going to be to where it can barely close. I give that example because that's exactly what happens when we do things emotionally. We don't unpack them. We don't unpack them. All right. Hey, Mike. So one loss after another. That's some of you. Your loss is this. It may have been not even something that happened years ago. This could be recent for you. One loss after another. Somebody dies. A parent dies. A marriage ends. A child leaves home. A friendship breaks apart. A diagnosis changes everything. You just got one thing after the other. And we don't unpack them. We just put them on the shelf. Put them on the shelf. This is what you do when you say you put something on the shelf. I don't have time to deal with this. I got to do this. But you never go back and take it off the shelf. So instead of processing, again, each experience, we tell ourselves to stay busy. Somebody put that in the chat. Catherine, thank you for being honest, saying I'm having a hard time unpacking my backpack. I'm glad that you're acknowledging that. Yes. So staying busy. This is one of the main culprits that steals our mental health. Meaning the positive experience that we can have from a positive mental health stance. Okay? So instead of processing each experience, we say stay busy. Stay busy doing what? Distract yourself. You throw yourself into work. You just working. Working, you don't even have to work. I was working with a client one time and they had a significant death and they realized, oh my Lord, I'm working and I don't have to work now. I don't have to work as hard as I used to, but I find myself still working to keep busy so you don't have to think. Who is this? This used to be me and I still have to work on it. We overcommit to serving others. Overcommit. That I still struggle with that. Excuse me, overcommit. All right? We bury ourselves in social media. Just scrolling. I call it doom scrolling. Scrolling. Not realizing that's impacting us psychologically, mentally, emotionally as we're scrolling and watching all of this. We overeat. Obviously, that was me. My doctor told me I'm obese, so. Overeat. We overspend. Who am I talking to? Overspending. Okay? We overwork. We numb ourselves because a feeling seems to be overwhelming. We numb ourselves. What do we numb ourselves with? Weed. Y'all, I was yesterday's old before I realized what weed smelled like. I didn't know that. I don't smoke. I didn't know. I didn't know what it smelled. Just like, what is that smell? Now I know. That's mead, marijuana. People I've seen people and they've expressed and they say, we go to weed. They're dealing with gummies. I think there's some gummies out there that got something in them make you feel better. I don't know what's in them. Gummies, alcohol. What do? We numb ourselves with alcohol. We numb ourselves with food. We numb ourselves with sex. We numb ourselves with shopping. Hello. I have many clients. I ain't calling no names. That I have worked with in times past, and just even people I've known, they've used grief. Well, no, I won't say they use grief. Grief caused them to shop. That was their method of coping, trying to numb the pain. All right. So eventually, we numb ourselves because, again, we feel like, I don't want to feel this. Reefer. That's it, Jim. Reefer. Oh my God. I'm laughing because maybe 6 months or a year ago, I live in my childhood home, which is in the hood. And I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed. Cassandra admitted to say shopping. All right. Glad you admitting that. But reefer, Jimmy's, it was something. I picked it up. Somebody dropped it off in my yard right at the edge. So I don't know. Maybe somebody was driving by and needed to throw it out. I don't know what happened. It was just in my driveway and I went to go pick it up. I didn't know what it was. So my armor bearer is a former parole officer. So I asked her all these things. She works in law enforcement. Now she teaches in it. And I say, hey, I took a picture. I say, what is this? She said, ma'am, go flush it down the toilet. I said, what is it? She said, that's drugs. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know. Somebody dropped it off in my driveway. I didn't know what it was, Jimmy. I didn't know. So I want you to realize that eventually the backpack becomes heavier and you don't even realize it. Many of us are exhausted because life is difficult. We think you're exhausted because of that. It's not. You're exhausted because you're carrying years of unprocessed grief. Can somebody put that in the chat? Unprocessed grief. So what does unprocessed grief do? It affects everything. Unprocessed grief has weight. It affects your relationships. I had one person come years ago because they were grieving over what they thought they were getting ready to get divorced. I need grief support because I'm getting ready to get divorced. About an hour, right at the end of the session, it wasn't the divorce. They were grieving their mom that died 5 years prior. But she never got grief support. She never dealt with it. And she was carrying around shame and guilt because she wasn't there when her mother died. Her mother died in her home 2 hours away from the client. And that lady wailed and she started crying. So it wasn't about her relationship. But had she not come to realize it was unprocessed grief, she would have ended up divorced. So unprocessed grief affects your relationships. It affects your decision making, your physical health, your sleep, your concentration, your spiritual life. It affects everything. It affects how you see yourself and how you respond to other people. That's how powerful unprocessed grief is. So sometimes we're reacting to today's inconvenience with yesterday's pain. Sometimes we're expressing stuff, our anger and our pain. It ain't got nothing to do with today's loss. It has to do with unprocessed loss in the past. So what's inside your backpack? I want you to take a closer look. What's inside today? What's inside yours? Okay? What's inside it? For some of y'all, there is sorrow over somebody who died. For some, again, there's disappointment over opportunities that never happened. For some people, you're carrying guilt because of words that were left unsaid. Words left unsaid. Others may be carrying shame over mistakes they cannot forgive themselves for making. Many carry anger toward people who hurt them. Some of you carry unresolved trauma from childhood. Some of you carry what we call caregiver fatigue after years of caring for aging parents or sick spouses. That's a huge one. I had one friend who was taking care of a spouse. She said, I know it's for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. She said, but I didn't sign up for this. I said, yes, you did. When you said I do, you signed up for that. Okay? So many carry compassion fatigue. Why? Because you're constantly taking care of everyone else's needs while neglecting your own. Some people carry unanswered prayers, broken expectations, and many people carry grief that they never named. They never named. That used to be me until 2012. Even though I've been in this industry, meaning in the death care industry, since 1989, as well as the hospice industry. So I've been in this for over 30 years, but I wasn't applying the information. I wasn't participating in my own healing. So when my baby mother, mentor, brutally murdered, when all those people died, I spiritualized their deaths. I never dealt with the emotions of it. It was the divorce that happened in 2012 that opened my eyes and helped me discover, by way of participating in my own healing, God helped me understand, lady, you are not doing the work of grief. You're not processing through it. As a matter of fact, today is June 28th, and it speaks about the brain, right? What does your brain do? It processes and it stores memories. Your brain is not your mind. Your mind is the spiritual part of who you are. That's a part of your soul. Your brain is a part of your physical being. And you have to give attention to both of those. Okay? So your brain is going to remember all of those painful things that happen. Your brain is going to remember defining moments that happen. Okay? So this is why we must do the work to heal, so that when the brain brings it back up, we call it a trigger. When you're reminded of something in the past, it doesn't take you down the rabbit hole, right? So today if I would have stayed married, it would have been 23 years today. 23 years today. And today's message was so powerful. One of the ministers in house, she spoke about, again, from Joshua, and talking about the stones that they had to put out as a memorial. She basically said we must continue to tell our story. Okay, because it was a defining moment. So that was a defining moment. So here I am. I was so grateful in church today because of what today means to me. I remember asking my therapist back then, right after getting out of the mental health hospital because of wanting to commit suicide after he left, and dealing with that divorce. And I said, when am I going to forget June 28th? I don't want to remember that date. That was the date I got married. I want that date to be wiped from my brain. She said, ma'am, it doesn't work like that. You'll probably remember that date forever. But as you do the work to heal, again, the pain, it relieves you of the pain of that. So I just wanted to run around the church today, but I didn't want the people, I don't want to scare the people, but I wanted to run, baby, because ain't no pain associated with it, that loss, because I processed that, and I'm very, very grateful. So one of the greatest barriers to healing is that we often minimize our own loss. Put that in the chat. We minimize our own losses. Okay, we tell ourselves other people have it worse, or I shouldn't feel this way because I'm a woman of God. I'm a man of God. I believe in God. I shouldn't feel this way. Okay, grief is not competition. I'm not here to compare my grief with yours. Your pain deserves acknowledgement simply because why? It's your pain, not mine. So naming the contents of your backpack is one of the first things towards healing, because you cannot unpack what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot unpack what you refuse to acknowledge. Okay? So you got to acknowledge. Why do we keep carrying the weight? That's a question. Why do we keep carrying the weight? People, and I want to believe that people don't usually carry it because they want to. Now, there are some people who want to, because some people want to stay in the place of being a victim, receiving support, liking the attention that it gives. But not all people are there. Some people again, they continue to hold on to the grief and suffer from the grief. But most carrying it because they don't know how. They don't know any other way. This is why you got to get help and go talk to somebody. This is why when people say counseling can't help me, yes, it can. The scripture says there is safety in the multitude of counsel. Okay? We get counseling or advice from people that we trust. All that is counsel. Okay? So sometimes we were taught that crying is a weakness. Some of us grew up hearing being strong. Okay? Others heard, don't talk about family problems. Right? Don't you say that. Some believe that faith means that they should never struggle emotionally. Wrong. Others feel if they begin to cry, they never stop crying. That's wanting to be in control. That happens a lot with people. They don't want to cry, but they say, I don't know where it's going to take me. It's going to take you to a healed place. It may be a painful place in the beginning because you're not used to allowing yourself being free like that. Some avoid grieving because staying busy feels safer than becoming vulnerable. And when we talk about avoid grieving, you can't avoid grief because you are grieving, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, because it's what's happening on the inside. But really, you avoid processing the grief is what we're saying. So many people are functioning but not healing. Put that in the chat, would you? Many are functioning, but you're not healing. There's a difference. Functioning helps you to survive. Healing helps you to live. Functioning helps you to survive, but healing helps you to do what? Live. Okay? So those of you who believe in God, again, he never intended for us to simply survive our losses. He desires that we experience restoration, even though life may never look the same. So what are some healthy ways to process? You can go through the handout. I'm going to lift up a few of these things. Well, I'm going to try to get through it. I think we'll make it so we can make it for our church announcements at the end. So healthy ways to process your grief. Number one, tell your story. I just heard that today in church. Tell your story. Every time you tell your story in a safe environment, your brain organizes memories that once felt chaotic. Oh my God. Okay? The story doesn't change, but your relationship with the story changes. I feel like running. The story doesn't change, but your relationship with the story changes. Mine. Number two, practice allowing yourself to experience emotions without judging them. Many of us are our worst critics. You're judging yourself. Sadness is not weakness. Anger is not failure. Fear is not lack of faith. Our emotions are just signals. Put that in the chat. Your emotions are signals, not enemies. They tell us where healing is needed. What's another thing you can do to process? Grief needs expression. You can do it through journaling, painting, gardening. By the way, I'm having an event in August. Go to my Facebook page. If you're local, come garden with me. We're going to talk about gardening and grief and what they have in common. You can pray, you can walk, sing. You can do a whole lot of other stuff. Community is another way to process your grief in a healthy way because isolation makes your backpack heavier. Healing happens when someone simply says, me too, or I understand. We were never designed to carry our life's burdens alone, especially grief. Because grief in itself, you could be in a room full of people and still feel isolated. Okay? So what's another way? Your physical health matters. Okay? So take care of your body, rest, stay hydrated, move it, eat well, deep breathing, get adequate sleep. All of these things will help you process your grief. And of course, our faith also definitely provides a pathway for healing. Okay? So prayer is not pretending everything is okay. Basically, prayer is inviting God into the place where everything is not okay. All right? So what does it look like when you unpack? Unpacking doesn't happen all at once. Okay? When you're unpacking emotions. It looks like sometimes one conversation removes one stone. Go talk to a person. Okay? Go talk to somebody. If someone you have a strange relationship with, perhaps trying to connect. can help you. And even if they don't want to, that's not rejection. They're not rejecting you. They think they are, but they're rejecting, again, their own healing by not trying to work through it. Sometimes forgiveness removes a stone. You're going to have to forgive those that hurt you. That's why we need the Holy Spirit to help us forgive. Because in and of ourselves, how do you forgive someone who murdered your loved one? How do you forgive someone? Again, I struggled with forgiveness through the divorce. I'm like, you know what? I had a hard time forgiving him and the people that were connected to him and just all the things. So you got to forgive. Get some help. Okay? Counseling, what does it do? It helps you organize your years of emotional clutter. Setting some boundaries. That's what it looks like when you unpack. Set boundaries. What else you can do is accepting help. That's something that many of you need to do. I used to be a person that didn't know how to accept help. I would starve behind closed doors thinking I was doing something. That was pride. That's all that was. Okay? So basically giving yourself permission to grieve, to remove years of unnecessary pressure. That's what it looks like when you unpack it. Okay? So let's talk about carrying the backpack, and we're going to carry it differently. So what's the goal is to not throw away the backpack. Okay. Losses will always be a part of our story, but the goal is to make sure that the backpack is carrying memories instead of of things crushing your spirit. Carrying memories that are going to help you. Okay. So as the healing progresses, guess what? The backpack is going to become lighter. That's how you know you're healing. That's how you know you're healing. Okay. So I'm inviting you to unpack your backpack that you've carried for years. Not to shame you for what's inside, but to let you know you don't have to keep carrying that weight. So what are some truths I want to leave with you? Remember this. What you don't acknowledge, you can't heal. What you don't acknowledge, you cannot heal. What you don't process, you will eventually carry, without a doubt. What you bring into the light no longer has to weigh you down in the dark. I hope you guys are getting this information. Okay? So, what happens here? Your backpack tells the story of what you survived. That is blessing me. The fact that you are still here, your backpack, it tells what you survived. Our scars remain. Our memories remain. Our love remains. But you don't have to carry the pain of that. Okay? Am I helping you, Miss Cat? You will get there. You will get there as you keep doing this, doing the work. Yeah. Okay? So when a person has surgery, I had surgery in 2015, the scars are there. So the scars are telling me, reminded me what happened. Okay? Tell your story, but you can't tell your story until you heal from the pain of your story. Until you heal from the pain of your story. So, okay. Your backpack, I want to say that again, tells the story of what you survived, but it does not determine where you're going. It doesn't. Healing is not about forgetting your losses. It's about learning how to carry them with grace and assurance, while grief may always travel with you, and it will. Grief never ends because it's what happens on the inside of you. I think I shared with you, those of you who were here last month, we had Mother's Day last month. My mother died in 2006. My baby died in 2004. But grief popped up for me in church. When my first lady, Elder Tony, She gave the message that day, and she wanted to acknowledge not just mothers. She said, but I also want to acknowledge some people who are experiencing grief, because Mother's Day is not necessarily a happy day for everybody. And she said, I acknowledge people whose mothers have passed. And then she went a second step and she said, I acknowledge those mothers whose children have passed. And when she said that, grief popped up, tears started flowing. I was like, whoa, okay. Okay, grief, I welcome you. I didn't know you were coming up today. That was 2004, 2006 when they died. Here's the difference. There was no pain associated with those tears. It's just my brain remembering, because my brain doesn't forget. It won't forget them. Those tears meant I missed them. And that was the grief that was still there. Okay? So what do I want you to do today? I want you to picture yourself standing at the end of a long journey. Your backpack on your shoulder, okay? But it's no longer bending your back over, okay? All right? Instead of being filled with unresolved pain, it's now you have some good stuff in there. You got wisdom. You got some compassion. You got peace. Peace is so priceless. You got memories that no longer hold pain. You got hope. So the backpack doesn't disappear, but what, again, helps you become stronger, because you learn how to unpack what no longer is serving you. You learn how to truly carry it. Now I can tell when I tell my story in front of different audiences, those that hear it for the first time, they say, oh my gosh, you tell your story with such confidence. I said, that's because I've healed from it. But when I first started telling the story, I was scared to say. I didn't want to talk about that. Who wants to talk about that? Going through divorce. And the guy, leaving to be a part of another community. They called me and told me. He didn't, but the community did. LGBTQ community. Who wants to tell that story? I'm like, Lord, I want to get married again. Ain't no man gonna want me knowing this. You got to tell the story. The last thing I share with you, and then we're going to go to our church announcements with Miss Marie, is that when I was after I went to inpatient to start my healing journey, after going through, being suicidal, after hearing that he wanted to leave the marriage, inpatient for 6 days, and then I went to outpatient. I went to outpatient therapy. And in outpatient therapy, there was this man, an older man, and he was a chaplain. I'll never forget him. I'll never forget him. He was so anointed, but drunk. He was on medication. He was in there because he loved taking medication. He got addicted to medication. He said, I like how it makes me feel. But it was a story behind that. But my first day in outpatient therapy, he said, ooh, who are you? You don't belong here, young lady. And that man would begin to prophesy to me. I would hide from him. And he told me, he said, one day I was hiding, and the Lord caused us to run into each other. He said, I don't know what this means, but God told me to tell you, he's going to make you spill the beans. The tears started flowing. He said, I don't know what that means, but I trust that you know. I said, yeah, I know exactly what that means. That God was going to make me tell my story. And now look at my life. Now, I absolutely love my life. And I'm thankful for the story. So, all right, before we go to Miss Marie, I'm looking in the Facebook for the comments. Okay, she told me to look at the comments. I want to make sure I answered any questions, and then we're going to move to Miss Marie. Thank you guys for putting in the comment section. Absolutely, for being what I call a scribe. And also, there's another method to my madness. Why was I asking you to put in the comment section? Because it causes you to be engaged. So you're having to literally type it in. It's causing you to be engaged, and it's getting into your brain. That's not manipulation. Okay? That is not manipulation. So, Tonya, what was the problem you said you had? Unpacking. I think that's what it was. Your backpack is heavy. Tonya, let's unpack. One thing at a time. Michael says, what happens if you never unpack your grief? You get weighed down, Mike. and eventually you could die. I wanted to pause there because that's a reality. Grief is something that's going to happen to us regardless in life. It's going to happen, and grief is permanent. But suffering from the grief is a choice. That's a choice. We have to reach out to get help. Okay? So when people don't unpack, it will eventually cause an overload and cause your body to break down. There is a real diagnosis. Some of you have heard me talk about broken heart syndrome as it relates to grief or any other type of hurt. So, Miss Cat, time for you to get some help to unpack. Okay, that's what that means. So, and we have to stop staying busy. Lois, thank you for sharing too. You said I'm having a very hard time unpacking. I really miss my mom. I took down all of her pictures, but my sister has a shrine. Thank you for sharing. Some people can create a shrine, and that shrine is going to keep you in the grips of the pain of grief. Yeah. Lois, if you don't mind sharing, when was it that your mom passed? It can be difficult. Remember, for our new people on here, not remember, you guys don't know, but for our new people, it takes up to 5 years after the loss for you to find your new normal. And that's only if you participate, if you're healing. If you don't do anything to address your grief, again, you can look up 10 and 15 years later and it still feels like day one. If that's the case, that means you haven't done the work to heal. Okay? Sleep our lives away. That's right, Tonya. What do we numb ourselves with? Mike, again, anything that's going to make us not think. The shopping, those things that I talked about, shopping and eating, overworking, those kinds of things. Kat says it's like cleaning out my closets, end up putting it back in a different way. Thank you for sharing that. Come on, Miss Cat. That's what some of us are doing. You cleaning out your closet, but end up putting it back in, the same stuff in a different way, just rearranging to deal with it later. Years of pain. Ma'am, that will preach. That is so true. That is so true. Listen, healing is hard work. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's also intentional work. You got to intend to heal, which means you're going to have to make some decisions, some sacrifices. You got to be willing to be open. You got to be willing to be vulnerable if you want to heal and recover. Okay? Tonya, you said you stay heavily medicated. We medication, some of us need medication because our bodies are so imbalanced. And we have, if you deal with diagnoses like bipolarism, schizophrenia, you need that medication to balance out. However, we can't be so heavily medicated to where you don't deal with the emotions of it. Okay. Some of y'all, if you haven't seen it yet, y'all know Jennifer Lewis. She's a Black actress, very outspoken. Okay. Go out there. I think it's on YouTube, and she talks about her journey. I didn't know she was diagnosed, I believe, with bipolar. And she talks about her story and how she received the diagnosis back in the day when people were dying like flies with AIDS. And so a lot of her people were dying, and she didn't know how to deal with it. She had several nervous breakdowns, and that's how they found out she was bipolar. And so she was put on medication. I love how she stated. She said she likes to call it treatment. She has medication, but she said you also have to do the work. The medicine will not do the work. There is no pill that will help unpack your emotional backpack. All right? So Cassandra, we want to work on that. Okay, so Lois, your mom died in November 2025. So it's new for you. Okay, you're in the first 6 months or so of your grief. So that makes sense why it's tough to go through mom's things. That makes sense. So give yourself time and grace, and even your sister. It's hard to watch other people, especially family members, when you know they may be grieving or mourning in an unhealthy way. We have to allow people to process and deal with it in their way. Give yourself that first year. Miss Lois. And just give yourself time. Okay. You don't necessarily have to rush it as it relates to going through her things unless you are ready to do that. Okay. So I'm at the end of her comments, I think. Minimizing on pain. So, okay. Y'all had some good things. All right. Your emotions are signals. Okay. Miss Cat, you said I was helping you. All right. Time to do the work. So true. Medication alone will not do it. That's right. Hey, Shernique. Hey. Listen, I'm going to tell this story. That's my friend. On here, I always pronounce it wrong. I just call her Sherry. I don't know how to pronounce all those neeks. Shernique, I think I did it. Anywho, we became friends when her mother died. Her mother was on hospice, and I was working, and I was going. That's when I was going through the divorce. Shernique, put in here if you remember this. I was going through the divorce, so I was seeing her. I would go visit her every week when her mom died as a bereavement coordinator. And during that time, that's when, my husband at the time decided to leave, and I was going through divorce, and I wasn't eating. I dropped 20 pounds in a month. And I remember going over to her house one day for a visit. She said, "Girl, what's wrong with you? You look like you need to be on hospice. Get over here. Let me feed you." She poured down some cake. That was 2011. Absolutely. Her mom died in 2011. So that was 2012. So we had been seeing each other for about a year almost. So that was 2012, the beginning of 2012, around February, March. And she said, "What's wrong with you? You here, let me feed you." Okay. So there's power. And so I see her name and I connect that to my story of where she helped me. All right. So, all right, I'm through. I know we went 6 minutes over, but we needed to go through the comments on Facebook. All right, Miss Marie or Barry, who's ever going to close out?
Giving all glory and praise to the Almighty God and recognition to the grief counselor, officers and members of this grand occasion of this day. Govern yourselves to the following announcements. Miss Marky Brown, an employee at a life celebration by Franklin, is preparing for her wedding. She has the dress, she has the bridesmaids, she has the flowers and the colors. She has everything, the preacher, the music. She has everything except the groom. But if she keeps eating 4 pieces of pound cake out of the shepherd's oven when it comes out, that dress is not going to work. She's going to go through some grief and going to need quite a bit of help there. Asking for prayer for her, yes, Lord. And on next month, beginning on July the 1st at 12:01 a.m. through July the 31st at 12:59 p.m. will be Christmas in July, beginning the great celebration for Dr. Barry J.W. Franklin. All are invited on the fourth Sunday in July when the Grief Symposium will be live and in living color at a life celebration by Franklin Event Center. That's July the 26th, 3:30 to 4:30. Bring all gifts. The shepherds came to worship. But the wise people, the wise participant came bearing gifts. Govern yourselves accordingly. Thank you very much. Now, let me change that. Okay, now here's the shepherd. Thank you, Sister Dr. Tonya Cunningham, for once again sharing with us the invisible backpack of grief there. I always say this, and it means something. It's not how long you live, but how well that you live. And I've learned to enjoy life. Just last week, we had choir rehearsal at the historic Mount Rose Missionary Baptist Church in Bastrop, and my good bonus brother, Reverend Lucius Henrik Shan. Now, he was determined to do something. I've been looking for some turkey necks, but these little turkey necks at HEB, they look like chicken necks on. They were sick looking, looked like they had AIDS or something. So he was determined to find me my turkey, and he brought him to rehearse, and we was talking. He was going to do something. We left Thursday, and on Friday morning at 6:10, his daughter called me to tell me that they had found him dead. And that just rocked my whole. I'm still going through that part there. But that's why I learned life is too short, but eternity is too long to go around holding grudges against people. If you have something to say, you better say it then. Don't say it tomorrow, because tomorrow is not promised there. So the tools and things that you have learned from this symposium, and there are others, they're online there. You can go there on YouTube and they're on Facebook. My other pastor, Pastor White, he say, you better learn to practice what you preach. That's Pastor Barry White. He's still giving sermons and he been gone there. But you need to practice what you preach there. Happy birthday to all those people who have had birthdays since we last been on the broadcast there. But now the birthday of our birthday would be next month. Don't get it twisted, okay? Next month, all month of July there. Thank y'all for participating. If you know someone that needs this, pass it on so that they can have it and have it going on for them. Also, on next month, on that same day that we're having the Greek Symposium, uh, St. Stephen's North Star is having the installation service of their new pastor, Pastor Ambrose Kearney, along with First Lady Reverend Catherine Kearney. And that would be at the North Star at 3:30, I think the program begins there. And from there, they're having a grand reception. So if you're at the program, you know where the reception is. Don't be trying to go to reception and miss the program. That's how people try to miss giving the offering. I'm telling them to have somebody at the door to get it if they didn't see that you came there. Enjoy the fort. Be safe out there. And we love you. And thanks for listening. That's all I got to say. Y'all pray for